What's going on? It's your boy DameSmiff, and we're here with another episode of Late Night at Dames. And so this evening, we're going to have a conversation about how the ladies can actually master the skills and resources they have available to them in the music industry. So if you're interested in conversations like this, make sure you hit the like button. That'll tell everybody this is a dope conversation, and also subscribe to this channel so that way you can catch all of these videos and all the other content I'm making in real time so you don't miss anything, right? So, ladies, what do I mean by your skills and resources in the music industry? Well, if you have been following my channel, then you'll know what I'm about to say. If you're new to the channel, then we're going to go through some pretty cool and interesting and kind of funny situations. But essentially, the skills you have as a quote unquote female musician are musical skills. That's literally it. That's all you have. Sorry. That's it. Right? And so the other skills that you will be applying in order to get success in the music industry do not come from the music industry, but are very valuable within the music industry. So to give you a few examples, right, we'll go with the obvious ones. Image, managing and controlling and maintaining your image as a musician is very important in the music industry, but it has very little to do with your musical skill, like your ability to play an instrument, to read music, to write music, or sing a song, or even dance for that matter. So when it comes to your image, that's more so a quote unquote soft skill that can really translate into a lot of value for you as a female musician. I say female musician just to make it specific to who we're talking about, which is women tonight. But I think in general, this is going to stand true for musicians, right? Your musical skill is what you should really build the foundation of your quote unquote resume, right? And so today we're going to just take a look at some funny clips where we're going to explore how perhaps women navigate the world, maybe view the world, and it's going to be through like some funny tongue-in-cheek videos, and we'll visit this topic multiple times. So if I'm, don't cover a topic you see today, we'll revisit it, right? And so much of what we will be talking about is how you can really understand the music industry, right? I'm not really just going to give you like, do this and you're going to get success. Don't do this and I'm not going to do that for you. I want you to be able to see all the options laid out in front of you and then be able to make a choice, right? Because a lot of times when I hear about the, I guess you can say, struggles, trials, and tribulations of female musicians, actors, and actresses, it feels as though there is this kind of overhead kind of oppression that seems to be placed upon them, right? But as we are starting to see more and more women be empowered through their creativity and their expression, the thing that I want to try and shape here is what it really looks like when you make a decision on your career, right? And so in general, because we're going to be looking at more, lighter topics today and being funny about it, in general, I want to take how we view men and women and their interactions with each other and see how that can really translate to the entertainment industry for female artists and musicians, right? And I'm saying this from the perspective of a guy, so just take that with a grain of salt. But the point of me doing it this way is to show that, one, I'm able to at least attempt to be objective about this, right? But at the same time, I want to be able to show that there is value in the cooperation and the collaboration between men and women in the music industry, right? So as long as you have a situation where female artists, let's say hip hop for a random example, right? Let's say a woman wants to rap and, become a really good rapper. That's the musical skill, right? Well, what she does to package that up is really what we're going to be looking at today, right? So men and women will appreciate a really good rapper, will appreciate a really good musician in general. But what truly attaches us to most musicians, in my opinion, has been how we relate to them, right? So maybe it's their identity, where they're from, or sometimes it could literally be just the timing. Like maybe this song, you heard it at a very memorable moment in your life, and it kind of stuck with you. And so that artist being connected to the song has, you know, some sentimental value in your life, right? And so when we understand those things as musicians, we write our music a certain way, we shape our image a certain way, and we also communicate with our fans a certain way. But again, all of that still, in my opinion, is separate from how well you play your instrument, right? And so what we're going to look at, like I said, are just some funny things. But when I compare that to men and women, I think the biggest difference is the approach in all of those skills outside of music. So let's take a look at our first video and see what's really going on out there in the minds of the ladies.
All right, I just want to provide a little context. So the women at the top are porn stars, and they're at a porn conference. The women at the bottom, they are professional actresses and singers in Hollywood. But I want to just kind of remind you that Hollywood has a way, America has a way of making bad things appear good. For example, smoking used to be a big thing in Hollywood. They used to have people smoking cigarettes left and right. So cigarettes were also addictive. They wasn't advertising that part. And then by the time you got to the 80s and 90s, people were dying from smoking cigarettes. But America was pushing cigarettes on people all through Hollywood.
Okay, that's actually an interesting point. And she's actually absolutely right in that there was a push, a marketing point for cigarettes, because there was a whole industry for people trying to sell tobacco and get people into the lifestyle of smoking and stuff like that, right? So now when we think about what she's presenting here as far as the quote unquote image of females in entertainment, you have two polarizing perspectives here. You got on one end singers and actresses, and then on the other end you have actual sex workers, porn stars. So what is it that the ladies are trying to communicate? What is it that the ladies are trying to maintain as an image for what they're trying to, you know, sell in the music industry, right? And so when we think about musical talent, musical skill, and all those things, is that at the forefront of this kind of decision? And that's what this whole video is going to be about as we continue on. So if you're watching this and you're a female artist and you want to get into the industry, or you already are and you're kind of navigating this, what do you think the ladies who are actual singers and entertainers are trying to communicate to their audience that may or may not know them with the image that they're packaging alongside their music, right? Because you can talk about whatever you want. You can be super sensual, you can be super modest, you can do whatever you want. But when you package it, why are you packaging it? What's the thinking behind it, right? And so I want to see how she's actually drawing the connection between them and sex workers whose job it is to look a certain way, whose job it is not necessarily to be anything outside of how they look.
So let's just say this over-sexualized behavior. So you got a porn star. Most people look down on porn stars. But when professional actresses decide to dress like porn stars at a conference, we don't have any kind of rebuttal. We make it appear to be sexy. But I just want to remind you that America always make bad things appear good. For example, black folks, they vilify the skin color black. America basically had others to believe that being black was, you know, you can hang black people from trees. That was a normalcy. Being black, you can barbecue them. That was a normalcy. And I just want to highlight that in all of these actresses, the first thing that they say when they get an award is, I want to give honor to God. How do you honor God?
Okay, so she actually made a few different points here, and some of it I agree with, some of it I don't, right? So the historical context of, like, I guess you can say, really, she was pointing out specifically chattel slavery. She wasn't pointing out just racism in general, is very, very, very far reaching from where we are about, like, women wearing clothing, right? Women wearing specific clothing today is a completely different conversation than if you add in the historical context of religion or building a government in a country and things like that. So moving that aside, within the music industry, women's sexuality has always been in their clothing, right? So the question, I think what she's really trying to get down to, or at least with this, what we're talking about tonight, is what are the ladies actually trying to communicate? So if you want to say, I am, at least with her example here, I'm a quote unquote godly woman, what does that look like? What is that image? If you want to say I am a female musician who is the best singer, or a top shelf triple A, high quality, high production musical artist, what does that actually look like, right? And so as you start to take a look at people's approach, the main thing that she pointed out in this video that at least stuck out to me was that if it's valuable, more people will market it, right? It's not necessarily that we like or don't like it, because with her examples of cigarettes, if you know it's detrimental to your health, you choosing to use it has more so to do with you knowing that, but at the same time, you wanting to do it amidst the fact that you know it's harmful. So we don't really know if the ladies are doing this amidst the fact that they think it's harmful, or it would actually be harmful to their careers. But then at the same time, we don't know if they think it's beneficial. So the greater conversation I think we should really be having here is, because as I guess a fan, she's voicing her opinion. This has been a common trope about R&B singers and female musicians all the time, is that we really don't care about your sexuality as a musical act. Actresses, maybe more so, that's important for y'all if you want to be in film. But if your job is to be like a front facing, heavy dialogue type of actress, then I guess your sensuality is not as important. But the point there being is that these actresses and singers, they're not getting the results that they desire by being highly skilled at what they do. They do get a bit of a boost when they tap into the other aspects of their sensuality, their sexuality, and their imagery, right? And so that's what I meant by in the beginning, where if you're going to get into the entertainment industry or the music industry and you think you have to be sexy or something like that, that's not necessarily the case if you lack the foundation of being musically talented, right? If you can't create music or perform music at a high level, it really doesn't matter how cute you are, right? So that's the main thing that I want to show people here, is that if you're going to try and get into this, look at all your options and just pay attention to how it really plays out for most people. So let's get into our next clip, and I actually want to see how this is really going to turn out. So remember, most of these videos I'm watching in real time with y'all, so you're seeing my real reaction. I don't know what's going to pop up.
So I started to look at some of Kalani's songs, and she has this song called Altar. And I looked at the lyrics and I said, hey, friend, did you know that the first 4 lyrics is the description of a Santeria altar? But the way the song sounds, it sounds like a love song when it's a worship song to one of her ancestors. And she said, I go to sleep to that song.
E. coli virus.
That's
Wow. So quickly in this moment here, at least what it jumps out to me is that if somebody is sleeping to your music, there are psychological things that happen to the brain while you're sleeping and stuff. I know people, they'll sleep to like all sorts of content, right, on YouTube. I don't do that. I turn my devices off when I go to bed, but that's the new trend now, is to put something in your ear while you're asleep and then have content playing in your ear while you sleep. Now, 2 things are happening here in this conversation. She's probably going to talk about this more in the spiritual aspect, considering the example that she gave. But the other side of this is that if you're doing that, you really don't know the health effects that is happening to your body, because you're experimenting with a new technology. Nobody has seen the effects of 40 years of playing music streamed from a cell phone via a satellite or 5G every night for years on end. Nobody knows what that does. So if you're doing that, you're pretty much a hamster for whatever comes at the end of that, right? The other end of that, as far as the spirituality aspect, is I guess in her example, her friend saying she goes to sleep to that means that her friend is, in a way, ritualistically listening to something that she may or may not believe in. Now, when people hear that, they're going to think, well, I can control myself. I know what I'm doing, and this is just a song to me. And they think like they have the mental fortitude to just be successful with their decisions, no matter what comes with it, right? But I want you to think about the decisions of the actresses and singers in the previous clip. They themselves also thought that way as well. They believed that if I wear what I want to wear, there's going to be some sort of mental fortitude that's going to allow me to separate what people view me as versus what I feel like I'm entitled to, alongside what I'm actually receiving, right? And what I mean by that is you can wear certain clothing and have a certain image, and people may treat you a certain way. That's one thing. On the other hand, or on B, you'll have what you expect to be treated like because of how you dress. So maybe you're wearing something scantily clad at the red carpet because you think it's going to feel empowering or possibly, inspire other people and things like that. And then lastly, there's going to be what actually occurred, which is that either we saw more of your body and didn't pay attention to the music, or we saw more of your body and it motivated us to go listen to your music. So you have to be very clear and conscious of what's happening there. So now, if you don't know that as a fan, to move it from the artist over to the fans now, if you don't know that as a fan, you could definitely be listening to an artist because she's pretty, or because she has a cute voice, or because she knows how to make quote unquote R&B sounding music. Because as a fan, you are now participating and indulging in something that you truly don't know. So again, this goes in general for both men and women, but because we're focusing on the ladies, if you were a female artist, what is it that you want to communicate to your fans and your audience? What are you trying to say to them, right? So if you take in this example of Kalani, I wouldn't like to assume that Kalani is trying to like convert a bunch of people through like pseudo propaganda via music. That is a real thing that you could do. It's been proven before with, government entities and radio stations, but I would like to think that she's just expressing herself, and the medium she's using just happens to be attractive to a lot of people because she's a female, and B, she's a cute female that can sing well. So if she couldn't sing well and was not a healthy, attractive woman, and I guess quote unquote a businesswoman that can get her music on the shelves here, this whole thing wouldn't matter, right? None of it would matter. But because she's positioned herself as a businesswoman who's selling a product and you guys pay money for it and then sleep to it, it begs the question as to what is it that she's really trying to deliver into the world.
What's happening?
Lord have mercy.
That's what's happening. You're listening to a song where she is worshiping the dead, aka demons. But it sound cool. It sound like pop. It sound exciting.
So yeah, she has a point there. It sounds cool. It sounds exciting. Now, this is one thing where people would be like, oh, okay, the demons and the devil worshiping part, right? You can talk about that, but this bleeds into a whole bunch of other things. There's female artists who will talk about sex in a certain way that you might not agree with. Like however you view, let's say, your womb or your chastity and your honor and things like that. How you view that may be completely different to another woman who makes music that you enjoy. So how does the artist be able to substantiate what it is that they're trying to actually make? Now, for most people who heard what I just said, you're probably like, it doesn't matter. Again, I have the mental fortitude to ignore these things, right? But it begs the question again, for artists, what and why you're going to make the decision to do and participate with these different, I guess you can say, agendas, right? So if you're a female artist and you want to be a more chaste, modest woman, but you do like rapping, what is it you're going to rap about which you feel is valuable that's going to excite the audience past all the sensibilities in there? You have to literally compete with those things, right? And so reasonably, a lot of female artists will give in and start rapping about the things that they think most people want to hear, which is braggadocious lyrics, sexuality. Modesty is not necessarily valuable, but if you can sprinkle it in there, sometimes it does work for a lot of female rappers. But it's not necessarily a thing that people are gonna, I guess you can say, compliment you for, right? So compared to male artists or musicians in general, the skill is actually highlighted a lot more because there's less of more value on like how we look and things like that. Like our look probably goes as far as like me wearing these glasses and this shirt being black. If this shirt was like a dingy white shirt and I had no glasses and there was like crust in my eyes or something like that, then what I'm saying probably would matter less. But the fact that I look generally regular, then I can basically carry this whole conversation with my mind, right, and my skills, right? So for ladies, it actually could be a little different. You don't really need to, for the audience at least, be as skillful for them to enjoy what you're doing. You can look pretty because that is a superpower, essentially, how you look, right? So what some ladies have been doing, like we seen in the first clip, was they were taking advantage of that by saying, okay, what is the imaging that women are using professionally that works at a high level, just the imaging. And so they would lean into, at least from our examples here, the porn star sex worker look, because in the porn star sex worker industry, how you look matters a whole lot. It doesn't matter, what you think about and, what you've built and things like that. That's more for a different purpose in that industry. In the music industry, it's similar in that your image matters a lot for women, but how well you sing is really the foundation, right? We wouldn't look at you just because you're pretty. That's one thing, right? At least in the music industry specifically. So what you're seeing actresses and singers do is that they're leaning into what works. They're not making quote unquote moral decisions, I guess you can say, like integral decisions, like I'm trying to pull off a certain look for a certain reason. That's not generally how people are getting in the music industry. And this is the same for men too. I can parallel it for men. Like there's a lot of tough, angry men in the music industry, and they're not really that tough and they're not that angry. Like if you take myself for an example, if you put me in front of a piano, I can do a lot of different emotions and playing in the music, right? But if you meet me in person, I'm probably not a bunch of different emotions. I'm probably like a max of like 3 or 4, right? But if I were to go on stage, you can't really package that the same as, let's say, like, I don't know, a super emotive artist like a Tech Nine or something. Tech Nine can give you all kinds of emotions and scream and run around and flip and dance, right? So in order for me to grab your attention as an artist, I would have to compete with that, which could be, as a man, either just being super, super talented in what I do, or just diverting your attention somehow, which could be shock jock type of content, or just, looking stranger, right? So for women, they're navigating that and they're literally looking at what works, pragmatically saying, just do that, right? And so if more people are looking at porn stars, if you just look at the porn industry and how many people just click on things and look at things and how much of image matters in that industry, they're just applying that to themselves. Then when we look at lyricism, well, a lot of lyricism really has more so to do with culture being placed or implanted into your music, but at the same time, it's a way for people to express emotions. So you'll get a lot of emotions sprinkled through music that isn't necessarily yours, but it is quote unquote coming from a pretty successful female artist. So how do you navigate that as a fan to say, man, I don't know if I really agree and understand what you're saying right now, but you're really talented. Like, how can you separate the two, right? And for most people, it's really hard because you already paid for your Spotify and the music sounds really good. And it's like, what other option do you have? So let's see what our next clip looks like and see how we can actually learn a little bit more here.
When did Wiz Khalifa become a tongue-flipping, air-humping, belt-unbuckling stage performer? Wiz Khalifa, he must have been looking at the Pretty Ricky videos and gained inspiration, because at no point, and I've seen Wiz Khalifa live, especially when I was younger. I've seen him live a few times. He never was doing that on stage. He must have gained inspiration from Spectacular, from Pretty Ricky, because I never seen him in person or a video recording of him ever doing that.
That's actually pretty amazing to think about, because now when I think about Wiz Khalifa and what I've seen him do on stage, I was mostly in college learning about writing and music business and stuff like that. And it was a lot of weed smoking, clearly, but it was more so like rock star antics, like lights, guitars, headbanging, maybe some mosh pitting and stuff like that. Lots of weed smoke. I don't know if they pulled out like props like cars and bikes and stuff like that, but That's how I've always remembered Wiz Khalifa. So if what she's saying true, let me know in the comments, guys. If you've been to a Wiz Khalifa concert in the recent years, if what she's saying is true, if it's that much different than how it used to be, then I think one of two things happen. The first thing is that this is literally what he's always wanted to do and just never could do it for some reason. I don't know. Maybe there was just more men around, and now that he's got like more women around, it's a thing. And then two, when we seen him do the fitness rebrand, a lot of it was about influencing people to get into the gym, but he didn't give up smoking. So it begged the question of if it was really for a health reason, right? And I'm being objective, and I'm just walking through it, right? And so that means that to promote fitness alongside smoking, right? It's not like he's saying I do fitness or I do fitness, I work out and I am a smoker. No. It's a whole business model now, right? So if that to be true, then that means that capitalization is probably his primary focus, which then leads me to this. What he may be doing is exactly what she's saying, is that he's looking at how people are responding to purchasing concert tickets, like a Usher or a Beyonce or whoever out there is doing the top shows, right? And he's seeing what actually works in the live performances. So if I think of like the female artists out there, even they don't rap the entire show. They do some twerking and some dancing and things like that. So it's not like they're rappers. They're doing what the woman in the first clip was talking about, is they're performing like strippers that happen to rap, right? So what Wiz Khalifa possibly is doing is that he's looking at all of the performances where there's some kind of, I guess you can say, cabaret show style to it instead of a music performance, right? An actual concert performance. And he's applying that to his show because he believes it's what the fans want. That's what I think is happening, in combination with his fitness thing, because, you know, that's part of rebranding yourself, you know, getting a certain body, putting that in position, and then start dancing around on stage, getting naked and stuff. That's what most people would logically line themselves up to do with what she's saying. So, ladies, even the guys are struggling with the exact same issues. So don't think that this is like a whole you gotta be modest and focus on music conversation. No. It's literally to show you that at a top level, everybody's trying to figure out what the hell to do with their musicality right now. And I'm here to tell you that, in my opinion, if I was your manager, if you paid me to be your manager and I was your A&R person running your record label, you would not be having to compete with acts that have to dance if you don't dance. I would just keep it that simple. Depending on what you desire in the music industry, like I want a Grammy or I want to be the best at something, that is really going to, in my opinion, shape how you're going to build your image, right? We talked, I think, last week about Tekashi 6ix9ine and stuff like that, like how you can be super, super popular and not really musically talented. What do you really want? Do you want to be bookable or do you want to be remembered? Right? I don't know what you really want, right? So for a lot of these acts that we see, and we've seen a lot of acts, I want you guys to understand this. For you younger female artists, maybe you're like 19, 20, 21 through like 30, you got to remember, you can go tonight, if you're watching this video, you can go downtown and there's going to be a plethora of adults who have musical talents trying to get performances done. What makes you different, right? And it can't be that you're naked. It can't be that you're pretty. It's got to be something musical that makes you different, because you're here for the musical talents inside. So let's get back into what she said.
The way that he was flicking his tongue, I'm like, whoa, I would have been known that you was doing that on stage. I would have been known if you had that as a part of your performance tricks. Is it just me? I don't recall Wiz Khalifa popping out like that. He looks good. He's been in the gym for a while, but he definitely looks good. But wow, I am shocked.
So I think for her, she's really highlighting a lot of what most artists are going to receive as feedback, right? She's saying he looks good, right? So she's not necessarily saying what he's doing is bad, and that's the problem that artists are going to have to navigate. She's highlighting it as if she was like shocked, but then she said he looks good. So you don't really understand her perspective, right? So what would you choose to do? Like, if you were the artist, I mean, if you were the manager of an artist who got that kind of criticism, what would you nudge them to do, right? And here's what I would tell them to do. Well, first I would ask, what is it that you want from the music industry? Do you want to be known as the freaked out dude who's, I don't know, got, like, because you have to be super literal with this, and this is my point generally for the ladies, but I'm gonna use Wiz Khalifa because I can do this. You have to be super specific and objective about what you look like, right? So what that would mean for Wiz Khalifa would be that he's super freaked out on stage, like she's saying, just based on the information received. He is a weed smoking dude who makes a lot of money. Dude got Fast and Furious placement money and all that stuff. Dude is doing very well. Has a whole bunch of merchandise, a lot of friends, a lot of buddies and pals. He has, I think, a kid, right? He's got a family and things like that. So if we apply all of these things and then package it all together and say, all right, this is the guy that we're going to put on stage, I would ask him, what is it that you want from the music industry? And 9 times out of 10, being that it's Wiz Khalifa and who he is today, he's probably going to say nothing. I don't want anything. I've done everything I wanted to do, right? But for you guys who can't imagine being in that position, there would be an answer there, right? An actual thing that they would want. Like, oh, man, I want to be remembered, man. I want to give back to the kids or something, right? Whatever it could be. I would then ask them, well, if you had an hour to do it, all you get is an hour, what does it look like? And if he tells me in any bit of that hour that he's flicking his tongue, gyrating his hips, and unbuttoning his pants, then it is what it is. But if he doesn't say none of that, then we got to change what the hell you're doing on stage. We can't do that, right? So let me know, ladies, what do you think? If you were getting into the music industry or the entertainment industry, or maybe you see yourself as an actress one day, what would your first scene or movie or role look like? What would your first show look like, or things like that? And what is it, and what's your standard for you to say, this is my performance? Is it you just standing there with a mic and a spotlight? Or is it you dancing? What kind of dancing? Is it the dancing that is sexual, tantalizing, and gets men rowdy? Or is it the dancing that is like sophisticated and gets you wondering and feeling certain emotions and things like that? Let me know. But this was another episode of Musician Talks, and we crushed it. So I will see you guys in the next one. I'm out, y'all. Peace.